If you enjoyed today's video, check out some of these and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Welcome to things I wish I knew before I started learning to play hockey. Now this one's catered a bit more towards my fellow beginners, but if you are not a beginner, I think you might still get a good laugh out of this one. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is your stick. This is the first stick I ever bought, a wooden coho. And while it's cool now, I wish I never bought it. Oh my gosh, there's no grip on it whatsoever. If you're working on a really low budget and you're not really sure if you want to commit or not yet, which is how I was, then sure, a wooden stick's not a terrible option to start stick handling at home. But if you want to spend just a little bit more, you can get something way nicer, and I'll tell you exactly what. Now there's a lot that goes into a hockey stick, but I just want to touch on a few things that are pretty important even as a beginner. Number one is the flex. Flex is basically how bendy the stick is. You want your stick to be the right amount of bendy to get the best power and accuracy in your shot. A higher number means the stick is going to be more stiff, and a lower number means it's going to be bendier. So what flex should you go with? Well, the rule of thumb is you want your flex to be about half of your body weight. I weigh 145 and I typically use a 70 or 75, and this works well for me. Going hand in hand with that is how long your stick is. I think my first 3 months or so, I was using a stick that was way too long for me, and it gave me a lot of problems until finally somebody pointed it out in the comments. But the thing is, when you cut your stick, you add flex to it. So with this 85, for example, when I took off 3 inches, they say for every inch you take off is another 5 flex. So I went from 85 to 90, 95, 100, and then it was too stiff for me. Stick length, they say you want to have it between your nose and your chin when you're on skates. I prefer it a little bit closer to my chin, but I'd recommend starting at your nose and working your way down. Another big thing to mention is the stick's curve. You might have heard of P28 or P92, and these are basically different curve profiles. Some are a bit more hooked, some are less hooked, and it's all personal preference. I started off with a P92, then switched to the 28, and then back to the 92. These are the two most common. I'd recommend going with one of these. It is personal preference, and you'll kind of learn over time, but either one of these is a solid go-to. Now, the last thing about sticks I want to mention before I jump into some recommendations is the weight. This might actually be the most important part, especially as a beginner when you haven't quite built that wrist strength up. With a wooden stick like this, it's going to be very heavy, which is why I said probably just skip this. I guess there's two ways to look at this. As a beginner, a heavier stick might help you improve your wrist strength faster, but at the same time, a lighter stick is going to make it a whole lot easier when you're first starting out. Your top hand when stick handling is really important. If you can't hold your stick straight out for an extended period of time, that's going to be a problem. Most top of the line modern sticks are going to be sitting anywhere between 300 and 350 grams. Honestly, I wouldn't recommend anything over 400. And while something like this is $370, there is some cheaper alternatives, so let's get into those. First one I'd recommend is the Pro Blackout from Hockey Stick Man. Now this is their red version, which is pretty much the exact same, just red, and they've also got a few other colors. But if you're looking for the most bang for your buck, and this is not sponsored by the way, but code Kazi I think gets you 10% off. This one retails around $160, and I think it's a bit more because of the color. I believe I paid about $130 for my first one. There are a few other brands you can also check out, like Swift or Barrel Hockey. These are pretty much doing the same thing, but they're putting their own wraps on them, so they have a little bit more style to them. Now you might be wondering, like I did, why are Blackouts so much cheaper? A lot of them claim to be using the same warehouses as brands like Bauer or CCM. Whether that's true or not, I don't really know, but I will say they're still really high quality, and especially as a newer player, you probably won't be able to tell the difference. So Pro Blackouts are the way to go. I'll link a few below. Hey, that rhymed. The second thing I wish I knew about hockey before I started learning to play is that every brand is different, especially when it comes to gloves. First thing you need to do as a beginner is figure out what size you are. And there are size charts online, but the best thing I can recommend you do is just go to a hockey store and try on a bunch of different pairs. Keep in mind, all the brands are gonna fit different, but each brand is also going to have different models. For example, these are the Bauer Vapor Hyperlight 2s, whereas some Bauer Supremes might have a totally different fit. And if you're gonna go with a used pair online from somewhere like Sideline Swap, keep in mind, because they're used, they're probably gonna be a little bit looser. I got my first few pairs of gloves at Play It Again Sports, which I highly recommend if you have one near you. They do use sports gear, and it's nice again because you can actually go in store and try them on. I was first wearing a pair of 12s that I got from Play It Again, but when I went to go buy a new pair, I thought I was a size 12. Turns out I was really a 13, and those 12s were just really stretched out. So hopefully that saves you some time and maybe money. My first set of gear was actually pretty cheap, all from Play It Again Sports. I think in total, I paid about 90 bucks for my stick, another 100 bucks for my skates. Pretty sure that everything else, which was pants, shin guards, elbow pads, shoulder pads, and a helmet, cost me about $350, all used from Play It Again Sports. So we're talking like $500, $550. And that's honestly pretty decent. Let me know what your first set cost you. I'm actually pretty curious. Now, that's all I could think of for things I wish I knew, but there are a few things that I did do that I want to recommend to you. Number one is document the journey. Now, you don't have to go posting these videos the way that I did, but it is really, really cool and a great way to track your progress to just record them. I'm telling you, in a year from now, you're gonna look back at those and laugh, and you're gonna be glad that you had them. So highly recommend documenting the journey, whatever that looks like for you. If you've got the money to toss a GoPro on your head, sweet. I also feel like I learned a ton from watching my game footage and just realizing mistakes that I made, things I could have done better. But I know all of you guys have a cell phone, so prop that thing up, record yourself stick handling on day one, and trust me, you're gonna thank me later. And last thing I wanna say is stick with it. It's not gonna be easy. You're not gonna pick it up right away and start ripping bar down shots. It's just not gonna happen. Your ankles are gonna be bending, they're gonna be hurting, but stick with it. You're going to get stronger, you're going to get better. Hope you enjoyed watching today. If you did and you're not already subbed, hit that button and drop some ideas for me down in the comments of what other videos you guys wanna see. My name is Kazzy, and I'll catch you next time. Peace. Oh, and if you're in need of a hockey stick, you're in luck, because I'm going to give this away right now in the comments. To enter, just make sure that you are 1, subscribed, and 2, drop a comment, say whatever you want. Do not mention the giveaway. I want to keep it low key, but drop the handshake emoji so I know you saw this. Good luck. I'll catch you next time. Peace.